In this video, we're going to start the KutaSoftware Infinite Geometry free worksheet, Trigonometric Ratios. Now, trig ratios, we have, in this worksheet, sine, cosine, and tangent. So the sine of some angle is going to be the opposite side length over the hypotenuse. The cosine is going to be the adjacent side, or the side that's touching that angle, over the hypotenuse. And for the tangent, it's going to be the opposite side of that angle over the adjacent side of that angle. So an easy way to remember this is SOH. So, sine of an angle equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And then TOA, tangent equals opposite over adjacent. So our directions are to find the value of each trigonometric ratio. So in number 1, we're looking at tangent, TOA. So tangent equals the opposite over adjacent. And if we're looking at the angle Z, the side opposite Z is side XY, which is 21, over the side adjacent, or touching Z, and that's the side that's adjacent to Z, but is not the hypotenuse. So that is 28. Now we'll simplify. I can divide both the top and bottom by 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3, and 28 divided by 7 is 4. So the tangent of angle Z is 3/4 in number 1. In number 2, we're looking at cosine. So cosine equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And remember that adjacent is the side that touches, excluding the hypotenuse. So our angle is C. Adjacent to C, touching that's not the hypotenuse, is 16, over the hypotenuse, which we know is always directly across from the right angle, is 34. Now I can simplify 16 and 34. Both are divisible by 2. So I'll divide by 2 over 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 34 divided by 2 is 17. So 8/17 is the cosine of C in number 2. In number 3, we're looking at the sine of C. So, sine equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. Finding angle C, the side that's opposite angle C is 28, and that's AB. And the hypotenuse is always directly across from the 90-degree angle, which is B in this case, and that's AC or CA of 35. Now I know that 28 and 35 are both divisible by 7. 28 divided by 7 is 4, and 35 divided by 7 is 5. So 4/5 is the sine of C in number 3. In number 4, we're looking at the tangent of X. Tangent, think TOA. So tangent equals opposite over adjacent. Opposite, adjacent, O and A. So X is this angle here. Opposite X is 32, and adjacent X is 24. So the tangent, 32 over 24, both of those are divisible by 8. So if we divide the numerator by 8, we get 4, and if we divide the denominator by 8, we get 3. So 4/3 is the tangent of X in number 4. In number 5, we're looking for the cosine of A. So cosine, think That's going to be the cosine equal to adjacent A over hypotenuse H. Locating angle A, we'll look at the adjacent side, and remember, adjacent is what's touching but not the hypotenuse. So that's going to be AB, which is 30, and the hypotenuse will be the denominator, 34. 30 over 34, both are divisible by 2. So dividing 30 by 2, we'll get 15, and dividing 34 by 2, we'll get 17. 15/17 is our solution in number 5. In number 6, we're doing the sine of A. So is sine. Sine equals opposite O over hypotenuse H. So A is here. Opposite A, we have CB of 32, and the hypotenuse, which is directly across or opposite the 90-degree angle, is AC of 40. Now both are divisible by 8, so if I divide 32 by 8 and 40 by 8, 32 divided by 8 is 4, and 40 divided by 8 is 5. So I'll get 4/5 in number 6. In number 7, the angle is Z. So opposite Z is YX, adjacent Z is 32, and the hypotenuse is 40. So the sine of Z, when you hear sine, think so. That's going to be sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. And we already labeled our sides. So for Z, opposite is 24 over hypotenuse, which is 40. In 24 and 40, I know that 8 goes into both of those evenly. So if I divide by 8 in the numerator and 8 in the denominator, 24 divided by 8 is 3, and 40 divided by 8 is 5. So 3/5 is my solution in number 7. And for number 8, we're looking at angle C. So opposite C is 14, AB. The hypotenuse is directly across from 90 degrees, and that's 50. And adjacent to C, excluding the hypotenuse, is 48. Sine, think so. So sine is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. And we already labeled opposite and hypotenuse within our diagram. Opposite is 14 over the hypotenuse, which is equal to 50. Now I can divide both of these by 2. And dividing by 2, 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. So my solution in number 8 for the sine of C, we have 7/25. In number 9, we're looking at the cosine of Z. Z is this angle, so opposite Z is 18, YX, adjacent Z is 24, and the hypotenuse directly across from that right angle is 30. And if I'm looking for the cosine, think ca. So cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And in this case, adjacent was 24 and our hypotenuse was 30. Both 24 and 30 are divisible by 6, so I'll simplify. Dividing 24 by 6, I'll get 4, and dividing 30 by 6, I'll get 5. So in number 9, the cosine of Z is equivalent to 4/5. And lastly, in this video, I'll go over number 10, which is the last problem on the first page of this worksheet. In number 10, we're looking at the tangent of C. So here's our angle C. Opposite C is AB, which is 27. Adjacent C is that other leg of 36. And the hypotenuse is always directly across from 90 degrees. However, for tangent TOA, we need the opposite side length over the adjacent side length. So we don't even need the hypotenuse. Opposite side length is 27 over the adjacent side length of 36. Now 27 and 36 are both divisible by 9. So I'm going to simplify this fraction. 27 divided by 9 is 3, and 36 divided by 9 is 4. So the tangent of C is equivalent to 3/4 in number 10. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button, and while you're at it, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments, leave them below and I'll respond as soon as I can. Continue on to the next video where I'll finish this worksheet completing numbers 11 through 24.